Hello everyone, and welcome to the second tutorial where we'll be looking at another magic decoded transcript, and this time we're going to be concentrating on a magic document that is from July, and it will really concretely demonstrate the official peace initiatives that Imperial Japan was really trying to initiate with the Soviet Union at the time. And more importantly, this document that we're going to be examining today will really highlight and illuminate the desire for peace from the Emperor of Japan, Emperor Hirohito, and how he was trying to really push and expedite this peace initiative in really trying to terminate this very destructive war which Japan found itself in, ultimately for July 1945. So once again, this poses the question, was there a diplomatic alternative open to the United States leadership at the time under President Truman in actually engaging with Imperial Japan, because they had full access to these decoded magic documents, and Truman was well aware of these official peace initiatives prior to making the decision to deploy the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So let's have a look at this tutorial, and once again it'll be a screencast. We'll be looking directly at this decoded magic document. See you soon. Stay awesome. So let's look at the second magic document here, which does illustrate Imperial Japan's desire of trying to find a way out of this very destructive war which it found itself in 1945. This particular decoded document is a diplomatic summary. As you can see here, it's dated the 13th of July, 1945. Let's dive straight into this document and have a look at it. So we'll start right from the beginning where it says military. So point 1, so follow-up message on Japanese peace move. So on the 12th of July, the day after advising Ambassador Sato of Japan's desire to make use of Russia in ending the war, Foreign Minister Togo dispatched the following additional message on the subject. You can see here it's labeled very urgent, so this was quite a high priority message that was actually sent here. Now, just to remind you, the foreign minister at the time in Japan during this time period was Minister Togo, and Sato was the actual Japanese ambassador based in the Soviet Union. So let's take a look at this, what they actually communicated to each other. So I have not yet received a wire about your interview with Molotov. Molotov was the Soviet Union's foreign minister at the time. Although it may be a smack a little of attacking without sufficient reconnaissance, we think it would be appropriate to go a step further on this occasion and, before the opening of the three-power conference, inform the Russians of the Imperial will concerning the ending the war. So once again, Imperial will, here you are referring to Emperor Hirohito, who was the ultimate authority at the time and once again seen as a godlike figure amongst Japanese there at the time, right? So important to highlight there, inform the Russians of the Imperial will concerning the ending of the war. We should therefore like to present this matter to Molotov the following terms. Let's have a read of this. So, His Majesty the Emperor, once again referring to Emperor Hirohito, mindful of the fact that the present war daily brings greater evil and sacrifice upon the peoples of all belligerent powers, desires from his heart that it may be quickly terminated. So I feel that this is quite revealing here in showing desire here from the highest authority of Japan not to actually continue this war, to drag it on any further, but to find a way out of this war so it can be quickly ended. Quickly terminated. Desires from his heart that it may be quickly terminated. That's quite, I found quite revealing there. Let's move on then, read it a little bit further. But so long as England and the United States insist on unconditional surrender, the Japanese Empire has no alternative but to fight on with all its strength for honor and the existence of the motherland. So the unconditional surrender terms were very controversial because the United States refused to include the status of what the emperor would be if they did surrender unconditionally. And if they could have clarified that in the unconditional surrender terms, which top US officials at the time had recommended, knowing how important the emperor was to the Japanese, that this could have made a real difference, actually including in the unconditional surrender terms that the emperor will be retained. Now, but unfortunately, in these unconditional surrender terms, it was very ambiguous, the position of the emperor there. His Majesty is deeply reluctant to have any further blood lost among the people on both sides. So once again here, coming back here to the highest authority of Japan, obviously clearly not wanting to continue this very destructive war due to the casualties that were occurring on both sides. And in his desire, moving on, for the welfare of humanity to restore peace with all possible speed. So once again, you've got a correlation of I guess correlation of narrative coming through here, seeping through this document here, that they really do want to end this war as quickly as possible. They don't want this to drag on anymore. And due to the unconditional surrender terms were unacceptable to the Japanese, primarily because it didn't give any status of what the emperor would be in any post-war Japan. Now, would the emperor be imprisoned? Would he be executed? As a war criminal? None of this was actually answered. It was very ambiguous, the state of what would be the emperor's position after the war. The question can be raised if this was corrected at the time, as advised by various U.S. officials, having known how important the emperor was to Japan. Even President Truman was aware of these documents. He's read these documents. Perhaps that could have made all the difference in hasting Japanese surrender if they could have clarified that the Japanese emperor will be retained, although perhaps only symbolically, but he will be retained. He won't be thrown into prison or seen as a war criminal. This could have made a massive difference in hasting the end of the Japanese war and surrendering in a much quicker time. Let's read on here. So as you can see there in the second paragraph, the emperor's will as expressed above arises not only from his benevolence towards his own subjects, but from his concern for the welfare of humanity in general. Now this is very important, this part here where he says, it is the emperor's private intention to send Prince Konoe to Moscow as a special envoy with a letter from him containing the statements given above. So there you go. The emperor is even sending his closest envoy with a personal letter, okay, to try to portray to the Soviets the seriousness of trying to find a way out of this very destructive war which they found themselves in, perhaps using the Soviet Union as a mediator between the United States and Imperial Japan. So it's the emperor's private intention to send Prince Kohone to Moscow as a special envoy with a letter from him containing statements given above. So I think that was once again further does concretely reinforce the belief that Emperor Hirohito at that time was seeking an end to this very destructive war. And once again, this raises the question, was there a diplomatic alternative open to the United States leadership at the time, having known this, other than using the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki and thus saving all of the death and destruction which that entails? So President Truman and the leadership hierarchy of the United States at the time was aware of these cables that were being decoded by magic, and clearly they knew that the emperor was seeking to end this war. They were concerned about the unconditional surrender terms. They were trying to use the Soviet Union as a possible mediator to try to end the war. Okay, thank you very much, and take care and stay awesome.